What about the first one? Do you think the first statement, is it a valid inference from the information in the passage on the left? Because this wording, as we've seen before, suggests it is an inference question, right? So what we mark, that is something we could infer, or a valid conclusion, or a statement that could be considered derivative from the information in the passage. So to evaluate the statements, we don't expect to find these statements exactly verbatim, as part of the passage. No. The use of this expression means we need to identify valid inferences. So what about the first? It says there's a way to determine the creator of a given sword other than his signature on the blade. This is a correct inference. This is a statement that is supported by the passage. Why? Okay, because in the penultimate statement here, we are told that each smith's secret forging techniques left an idiosyncratic structural signature. So this would imply that this structural signature could be used to determine the creator of a given sword, even in the absence of a physical signature. So that's why this statement must be considered valid. What about the second? Okay, Saulo, you nailed it. Yes, the three of them are valid statements that can be supported, reasoning from the passage. The second one says they have been viewed in terms of the other than the purely material. Well, you can remember the first statement, right? Here, the information tells us that the Japanese sword has even been considered a spiritual entity, right? So this means that it has been viewed in terms other than the strictly material, right? It's been considered spiritually as well. Alexandra, you are asking when we know if we can mark all of the options. Well, normally in the app, or the application of the GRE test, there is a visible way to distinguish the questions with multiple choices and possibly more than one correct answer choice. We'll present the choices with these little squares, okay, first of all. And second, there is explicit indication in the text of the question, here. This indication will always appear in multiple choice questions with more than one possible correct answer, okay? Then proceeding to the third affirmation here, they have not always, that is Japanese swords, because these statements are about Japanese swords, they have not always received the artistic recognition that they deserve. How can we conclude this idea from what the passage mentions? Pay attention to this, please. In the last statement, let me highlight it. You notice I left one word, today, right? The last sentence tells us that today, the Japanese sword is valued as much for its artistic merit as for its historical significance. And earlier in this passage, we are told that master smiths, the makers of swords, were not classically regarded as artists. So this means that those smiths, those creators, that are viewed as artists today, didn't always receive the recognition that they deserve, and neither perhaps the swords that they made. Because there is a change in the attitude, okay, here, there. So in the past, master smiths were not always considered artists, right? But today, there is more appreciation for, smiths, for the Japanese swords and their creators. So that affirmation, number 3, points out the fact that there's been a change of attitude, right, towards the Japanese swords and their creators.